Hey, welcome in.
Welcome to the Arrowhead Addict podcast.
We are here coming to you live.
The Kansas City Chiefs are going to the Super Bowl. You only win a Super Bowl 2 times every 5 years, right? Oh! The warm-up act is over. Let's bring in Melissa Etheridge, massive Chiefs fan. Melissa.
Super Bowl champion, 2-time Pro Bowler, and Trent Green. Trent Green, how you doing?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
And he picked it up! He picked it up! He's gonna score!
And we'll see you next week. But until then, as always, go Chiefs.
Welcome. This is Wacky Wednesday here on the Arrowhead Addict channel. I'm Adam Best, joined by Sterling Holmes and producer Richard doing his thing behind the scenes. It's rivalry week, man. We've got another crack at the Bengals. I mean, the smack talk is going to be immaculate, right? Are you ready for this, Sterling?
I was born ready. That shirt, by the way, is very strong. What is it? Is it golf?
It's not. It's tennis, man. There's this really cool magazine called Racket. I'm a big fan of tennis. I don't watch it a lot on TV, but I've been to the U.S. Open. I enjoy it in person. I just don't have that much time. That's my problem with a lot of sports. They just occupy a lot of time. When you're a diehard football fan.
No, if I wore that shirt, I'd kick my own ass. But no, it's cool.
I mean, not all of us can pull it off. Sterling, just admit it.
No, baby, it's strong. I like it. I like it best. I got to give you a hard time. Come on. We're too friendly. I'm in a combative mood because, as you're mentioning, the Chiefs are taking on the Bengals. It's Ja'Marr Chase talking smack, although I don't think the Chiefs need to do much in this matchup because Jamar's already getting into fights with, it sounds like, his head coach. Why is he not getting the ball downfield? Well, you got to ask Zach.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe the squeaky wheel gets the grease. We're going to be joined on today's show by a Bengals expert. I think we're going to learn a lot about what's become maybe our biggest rival. So let's go ahead and welcome Sam Gormley of the Jungle Juice podcast to the show. Did I get that name right?
Yeah, you did. You nailed it.
Okay, great. I hate when I kind of botch names. That's the worst.
I've heard it said so many different ways, so I would have just nodded and said, "Yeah, that's great. It's awesome."
How you doing, man? I know week 1 was a little rough.
Yeah, that's probably an understatement. It was, I don't want to say unexpected because the slow starts, which I'm sure we're going to talk about, has been kind of a thing over these last couple of years. But still, when you see Patriots on the schedule, you're probably thinking, okay, yeah, 1-0, finally going to get off that big start and have Kansas City in week 2. And obviously that didn't happen.
Wrecked a lot of survivor pools, right?
Yeah, I saw that. I even had some friends messaging me being like, what the hell? And I was like, well, I wouldn't have picked that game. I would have stayed away from it for that exact reason. But just because of the slow starts, the Chase situation, and I mean, the Patriots, you can say what you want about their offense, and you saw pretty much what you expected from their offense. That's still a pretty decent defense, even losing Matthew Judon. Like, that's still a pretty good defense with it. Sure.
And obviously, Sterling has a lot of respect for the Bengals because he picked them in his survivor pool and he is no longer, alive.
Yeah, I'm pissed. I went to week 14 last year and the Bengals week 1 decided to screw me. My dog was mad. Actually, it was because the UPS guy dropped something off at our door. But yeah, Bengals, the one time I tolerate you Bengals the one time and you let me down.
Well, that's where you got to talk to the actual fans. We would have let you know that probably to stay away from that game.
Dog, yeah. I thought the Patriots were so ass it wouldn't matter. Sorry, the Bengals and Zach Taylor in the first 2 weeks of the season 1-10. Congratulations, I'm the dumbass.
Yep, we probably would have told you that. Yeah, no, it's it's mind-boggling, honestly, as to how they have. Now, they've played some good teams in the first couple of weeks during that 1-10 stretch, but it doesn't necessarily matter because they just look like crap no matter what.
And Sterling, be honest, that wasn't the UPS man. You have trained your dog to be unfriendly towards Bengals fans. That's totally what's going on. We could admit
anytime he hears Bengals fans, he just starts yapping. I know. No, we're getting married, obviously, October 5th, me and my fiance. We went and got our marriage license today, which is pretty exciting. Yay. She can't back out now, right? That's the whole thing. She can't back out now. I think it's what it comes down to. But we're getting packages sometimes, and so the little tyke gets a little excited.
Well, packages are exciting. What else is exciting is this game this week. So let's get into it. We have 6 questions for you. Let's crack open that 6-pack. Right off the bat, there's one question on everybody's mind, and that's, is Joe Burrow okay?
Yes. Yes, I think he is. Now, I guess the way that I always like to go with this is, am I concerned? And I say, no, I'm not concerned, but I'm not concerned. If you get what I'm saying with that. So he says he's okay. And I know everybody's been talking about the wrist movement on the video and so on, but that's been something we've seen throughout training camp as well. And he said today, they even asked him in his press conference, hey, what's that about? Is that anything? And he said, it's just like anytime you have an injury, you're just trying to keep that muscle as loose as possible. So, I mean, you will see that during practice. That was something that even like in the first training camp and even back in OTAs that people kind of noticed, that he just kept on doing this and just moving his right wrist back and forth, trying to keep it loose. Now, when you looked on Sunday, he didn't necessarily play well. It was a lot of checkdowns and so on. He went up the seam for one pass to Jamar Chase that led to the field goal there in the fourth quarter. But other than that, you didn't necessarily see him push the ball down the field. Now, part of that was that the Patriots weren't letting him do that. But then also some of that was on Joe Burrow. Now, that's also been one of the things, and I'm sure we're going to talk about slow starts and so on here in a few minutes, but Burrow has always been kind of a slow starter. I mean, really, in his football life, I'm not going back to high school or anything, but he's had 1 year where he hasn't necessarily started slow. And that was 2019 with LSU. And that team, I mean, I think in some instances, I probably could have made him look good with Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire and so on. They were tearing up college football. But he's always been a slow starter in the NFL. Now, part of that is due to some injuries, but I think it'll be one of these things. Now, if we're having this conversation come week 5, when the Bengals play the Ravens, then I will answer that question completely different. But as of right now, I think he is okay.
Yeah, I never would be concerned if my quarterback acts like picking up a Gatorade bottle is the weight of a 100-pound dumbbell. Yeah, no, that's totally normal. Totally normal.
And see, I hadn't seen that video until earlier today because I was at the game. So obviously, that wasn't something that crossed the mind. And media literally asked him about that today. And whether he knew about it or not, he played dumb. Like, what do you mean? Like, did I pick it up some weird way? I don't know. He says he's fine, and that's really all you can trust. But then again, I'm not sure he's going to go out there and be like, yeah, no, I feel like crap. It hurts, and I should probably just sit down for the next 6 weeks because that's just not the guy that he is. So you almost just have to take him at his word. And I don't know. I'm not worried, but I'm not worried.
Okay. Well, are you worried about the slow starts? Because they now have lost opening game 3 seasons in a row. We've talked about 1-10 first 2 weeks in the Zach Taylor era. What is it with these slow starts?
It's a great question. And it's something that we actually spent an episode of our podcast diving into, because if you ask Bengals fans, and I don't want to call them the casual fans just because then that makes me sound snooty and I don't want to feel like I'm that kind of guy, but they will say it's because they don't play in the preseason. So what we said is, okay, let's see if there's any fact towards that. And we went all the way into last preseason and we said, okay, let's base on snaps for teams on what they do in the preseason. Does it correlate to them having a fast start? And what we found is literally there's no correlation to that at all. I mean, the teams that had the fewest offensive preseason snaps last season were the Lions, Eagles, Cowboys, Vikings, and Bengals. And I mean, you look at last year, Lions, NFC Championship. Eagles started off the season really well. That's what you're wanting. And then who knows what the hell happened to them. Cowboys, I mean, you can say what you want about them in the playoffs, but still in the regular season, a solid team. And the Vikings and the Bengals are 2 teams that if their quarterback would have stayed healthy, probably would have made the playoffs. So I don't read anything into that, because then you have some teams like the Chiefs who are kind of in the middle tier as far as snaps played. So I don't know that that's the reason. And that's really what Bengals fans would say. The previous 2 years, to me, it's a relatively simple answer. Last year, Joe Burrow had a calf injury, and the year before that, he had the appendectomy. And to me, those are the two things, because that forced him to start slow. Now, this year, is it the Jamar Chase situation? And while Burrow himself had a normal camp, he didn't have Jamar Chase. I don't know, but I just don't think that there's necessarily something to put and say, hey, that's the reason why they're starting slow. I don't know. But it is something that is concerning, and I don't really know the answer.
Well, you brought up Jamar Chase there. And ever since they dropped in Jamar Chase to be a duo along with T. Higgins, this offense has really rolled. They didn't have that duo last week. So are those two guys, those two stars, going to be at full strength on Sunday?
Jamar Chase, yes. T. Higgins, I'd be surprised. He did not practice today. He was on the rehab field. But T. Higgins is in this weird situation too, and it's just, this is going to be the story of the Bengals season. Is, you all know this as well as anybody, those soft tissue injuries, especially hamstrings, they can linger for weeks. And really the only thing you can do to cure a soft tissue injury is nothing. Like, you just have to let it heal on its own in a way. So for him, he's probably in the situation where he's thinking, the last thing I want to do is push it when I'm 75%. And let's say, okay, maybe if I sit out this week, I'm back and I'm good by week 3 or 4. But if I go out and play week 2 and aggravate that more, then I'm out until week 12. And I'm costing myself money. Because T. Higgins, if he comes out and has a huge year this season, he could get paid. I mean, he is going to get paid. But now the question is he going to get paid $20 million a year? 25, 30, or so on. You know, these wide receiver contracts are crazy. In his eyes, he is in that $30 million range. Now, is he? I don't think so. But he's probably in the $20 to $25 million range at least. But if he goes out there and plays 4 games, then it's just building into what everyone says is the downside of T. Higgins is that he's injury prone. He's not played really a full season since his first season. And that's just a fact. Jamar Chase, I'm not necessarily worried. Will he be at 100%? Maybe not. But I mean, he looked good last week, and I think he said that he was going to be on a quote-unquote pitch count. But I think if my memory's right, he didn't play like 9 of the snaps on offense. You know, the Bengals didn't have a ton of offensive snaps, so percentage-wise, it's a little different. But I think Jamar Chase, and plus, I know you all were mentioning it as well, I think of all games, I don't think Jamar Chase is sitting out this game. Because it's the Chiefs. There's the rivalry with that. And I mean, he has, if we're being honest, he's played really well against the Chiefs in his career. I mean, you think back to the first game that pretty much birthed this rivalry when he, I think, went for 735 yards and 18 touchdowns that game against the Chiefs. And it was fantastic. Every minute of it.
Yeah, I love looking into your trophy cabinet and seeing nothing there. It's nice. You got to keep it dusty.
Do we have to take some shots like that now?
What?
We are
happened?
so aware. We are so
What
aware
happened?
of this.
What did I say? I don't know.
Listen. There's the one thing. Like, I love always people are like, oh, well, where's your Super Bowl ring? It's like, yes, we know. We are sad, and most of us would give away our firstborn child if it meant for that. If only Aaron Donald was never born. Yeah. And I'm sure many teams could say that same thing.
What's interesting with Jamar Chase, so I talked with him at the Super Bowl this year, and this was a more reserved Jamar Chase. This is the first time I felt like he was more introspective. The first time where he wasn't all bravado, it was a case of him saying, you know, I want a new contract, and T wants a new contract, and we got Joe Burrow coming off of the injury. And it almost feels like that's coming into and permeating into this season so far. T. Higgins, Trey Hendrickson wanted the new contract. Joe Burrow still concerns. Jamar still wants that contract. I mean, the reports came out about now who knows how real they were, that he was offered the 4 for $140 to $35 million a year, and he said no. I mean, there's just so much unrest. I don't think Jamar sits out this game. But again, I almost wonder with the T. Higgins situation, same boat. It's how much are you going to try and push yourself through when you've not gotten your money yet in Cincinnati? Quite frankly, is not an organization that's known for taking care of its guys.
And see, I don't know that I necessarily agree with. That is a common thing for people, but the Bengals have always paid their guys. If anything else, they pay them to a fault. They have always been a very, they are loyal to a fault. I mean, you look back and all of their guys. I mean, hell, they made Andy Dalton one of the most highest paid quarterbacks in the NFL at one point. If you're making Andy Dalton one of the higher paid quarterbacks in the NFL, that means something. You know, Chad Johnson, AJ Green, they've paid all of these guys. It's been outside guys that they've not really paid until a guy that I think you all might know a little bit about, Orlando Brown. He was literally one of the first free agents that they gave any semblance of guaranteed money. The Chase situation, though, and what the report I know came out earlier today about that 4 for 140, what they're having disagreements on is when does the guaranteed money start to go in? And I mean, that, like, you can't necessarily blame either side. I mean, I think fans are starting to sour on Chase a little bit, but I think that's because it's getting into the season. And then also fans are hearing, they're offering you how much money? Like, because it's hard for us to wrap our brain around, because obviously, I mean, we don't know what $140 million would be like. At least I sure as hell don't know what that would be like.
Well, if you guys get this done, trust me, a year from now, nobody will remember. Nobody's bitching at Chris Jones right now. It's not a problem. And let me phrase this another way. And instead of that, they don't pay their guys. They're a little light in the pockets, right? So when it comes to things like guaranteed money, escrow, all that kind of stuff, getting funky with the salary cap calculus, it's a little harder for Cincinnati than most of the other teams. Is that a factual way to say it?
Yeah, no, that's accurate. I mean, the Bengals have given really two players in their history any true semblance of guaranteed money: Joe Burrow and Orlando Brown Jr. They just don't do that, and because of the escrow with it. But I think Jamar Chase, listen, if Orlando Brown Jr. deserves to be in that conversation, Jamar Chase sure as hell needs to be in that conversation as well. I mean, Jamar Chase, if you're talking about the 4 best wide receivers in the NFL, he's probably on that list, and if not, he sure as hell's number 5. Like, he is one of the, when healthy, one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. And if he was, let's say Jamar Chase would have played at Florida, I think it almost would take it down a notch. But the fact that him and Burrow have the relationship that they do, I think that just adds to it that you have to keep this going, because you can't teach relationship. That has to happen naturally through reps and so on. And just because you pay somebody doesn't make them your buddy.
Yeah. The Bengals defense last week against the Pats gave up 125 yards to Ramondre Stevenson. I mean, he was running all over that defense. Anarumo, has done a great job traditionally against the Chiefs defense. How will they try and slow down Isaiah Pacheco? Or will they basically say, hey, you can run it, just we're not going to give up chunk plays through the air?
I think more of the latter, because, I mean, the Bengals run defense, that has been something we've been talking about, that is the difference right now between them and saying that Joe Burrow figures it out. Because if it looks like that all season, then mentioning the word Super Bowl is silly. But the Bengals run defense is not good, because it wasn't good last year. And they said, hey, let's lose our best run defender and let's not really replace him. And let's replace him with Sheldon Rankins, who has in his NFL career never graded, I'm not sure how y'all feel about PFF grades, but never graded above a 68 against the run in his career. Where DJ Reader was arguably maybe one of the best run defenders in the NFL, and still is. Now has injury concerns, and that's a conversation for another day. But they haven't really done anything to fix that. To add on to that as well is that the pieces that they added in the draft to potentially fix the run, guys like McKinley Jackson, Chris Jenkins, and then last year Miles Murphy, they're all hurt right now. So they're literally pulling guys, hoping that they can do something into stopping the run. That's one of the reasons why the Patriots it ended up playing into their favor, because the Patriots, what do they do on offense? It's at least not awful. It's run the ball. I mean, it's not great by any stretch, but they can at least do it okay. And they were able to expose that aspect of the Bengals defense. And that is a massive concern. If the Bengals run defense this season is average, they have a legitimate shot to go up against the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game. And let's just do it one more time. If it is bad, I don't know that this is a team that is in the divisional round even. And if it is atrocious like it was on Saturday, I don't know that they make the playoffs, just because teams are going to expose that, especially when you're in the division of the AFC North, which is just let's go, let's beat you up, let's run the football.
Well, you mentioned Orlando Brown Jr., and since this is a Chiefs show, you weren't going to get out of here without us talking about him. I looked into him this morning and was really surprised. ESPN Analytics gave him a pass block win rate of 100% last week, and then PFF gave him an 80.1 pass blocking grade. Is this a new and improved version of Orlando Brown Jr. versus what we saw in Kansas City?
I hope so. Is because the Bengals have. Listen, the Bengals offensive line, everyone knows the story. Like there's no secret. Again, how Joe Burrow took that offensive line in 2021 and beat the Chiefs and was literally a play away from winning the Super Bowl. I'll never understand. That offensive line was awful. It's going to be funny. It'll be one of those questions, in 25 years, you're going to be, a bar bet is going to be, can you name the 5 starters of the Bengals offensive line when they went to the Super Bowl, in 2021? It's going to be a great bar bet with it. But I think the biggest aspect for Orlando Brown Jr. has been the consistent improvement from left guard Cordell Volson. The start to last year, he was not good. And then he kind of turned the page, weirdly enough, kind of when Burrow got hurt. I think that you're just reading into too much with it, is that he started to play better. And you all know this is, if you have a crap left guard, it doesn't matter what kind of left tackle you are, you're having to do almost twice the amount of work. Or now, if he's not having to worry as much about that right side, the hope is that he will continue to improve with that. And that's just the hope is that he is going to play like he has been paid. And then you've got questions on all portions of the Bengals offensive line now on the right side, but hey, that's just Cincinnati Bengals football. We can't have a good offensive line. What would that do?
The other thing that surprised me is he only needed double team help on 16% of snaps. And I felt like in Kansas City, he was getting chip help a lot. Is part of that Joe Burrow gets rid of the ball faster than Patrick Mahomes, or what do you think is behind him not needing as much help?
Burrow does get rid of the ball at an elite rate. That is one thing that he does, and maybe almost to an extent too fast sometimes. And I think that's one of the complaints that you were even talking today during his press conference of is, how do you find the balance of the check down before also potentially sometimes you just have to take a chance and go deep. In some instances, is it the fear of making throwing an interception based on just taking the 4 or 5 yard check down? And that's part of the reason I think why you saw him grade so high last week is that Burrow didn't go deep really at all. He had the one play to Jamar Chase, but even then that was a quick shot up the seam. So his release time has really helped. And really, when you have a bad offensive line, and I don't know that they're bad, I think they're average. The hope is that they're average or maybe even above average. That's a way that you're going to try and combat that.
As far as the game itself on Sunday, do you have a offensive and defensive sleeper for the Bengals? And then obviously you got to give us a score prediction. If you don't, Adam Bessett, he's going to drive to Cincy and ask everyone at every single bar for your address, find you, and then hand you a strongly worded letter.
Okay. Well, luckily they probably won't be able to find me since I live in the middle of nowhere, Kentucky. So it's good that I can do that. And I don't think anybody actually wants to drive here.
What, Versailles?
Look at you saying it right because we're Kentucky.
Yeah.
No, I'm not quite in Versailles. I could tell you the city, but no one would even know where
I go in there all the time, baby. I go there all the time.
You go to Versailles? Are you a horse racing
down
guy?
There, baby?
Okay.
Bourbon.
Yeah.
I'm a bourbon guy.
Okay.
Yeah, it's great down there.
Okay, there you go. Yeah, Woodford and all that. It's great.
Yeah.
The offensive guy to watch for is, I think for the Bengals, it's hoping that somebody fills into that wide receiver 3 position. Andre Yoshivas was kind of my hope last week. In fact, he was we were talking before we came on air about Bengals on our fantasy team. He was the guy that I picked up late and hoping that he would fill that role. And I even considered this week, do I want to take another week? So he'll be my sleeper and hoping for my fantasy team's sake that he will actually do something. As far as defense, gosh, I don't know that there's much hope. I mean, I guess Geno Stone had a really good year for Baltimore last year, and he had a bad drop of an interception in the end zone on Sunday against the Patriots. It was one of those swings. Bengals made a lot of mistakes in that game, and that was one that it hit him right in the breadbasket. And, he intercepts that. We can, if ifs were fits, we'd all be drunk kind of thing. But there you go. How about Geno Stone hopefully getting an interception to Patrick Mahomes? As far as a prediction, for me, I think the spread's a little high as far as 6 because, I mean, you look at it. Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, they've played 4 times. All 4 have been decided by 3 points. All 4 have been decided by 3 points. Now, will the Bengals win? No, I don't think so. Although, if you would have told me last week, I felt like the Chiefs were 1-1. They would split against the Ravens and the Bengals. If they would have lost to the Ravens, they would beat the Bengals. If they would lose to if they would beat the Ravens, they would lose to the Bengals. Just because I just felt it was that case. Now I don't necessarily agree with that anymore. So I'm going to say 23-20. Chiefs beat the Bengals. But I don't know. Other than the Bengals, I think rolling like a blowout win. I don't know that there's a result that would surprise me. Like if they go in there and win, I'm not going to be surprised. Whatsoever, because that's just how this rivalry is. And that's the best part about rivalry football is it's really hard to predict.
I would be shocked. I would be bamboozled. I'd be perplexed. The Bengals look so bad. I'm sorry. I am, Sam, but they looked atrocious. I thought the same thing as you did. Going into this year, I said that the Chiefs will leave the first 2 weeks 1-1, tough stretch. Didn't know how it was going to break down. But after watching the Bengals, after a lot of the unrest, after also understanding how the Chiefs, Orlando Brown Jr. is probably the Bengals' best offensive lineman. He might be. The Chiefs know how to attack him. The Chiefs don't necessarily have the horses to exploit him as far as a speed rusher, which is pretty good unless the Chiefs try and get real creative and throw Leo Chenal on that side, which I don't foresee happening. I think the Bengals will be in the hunt into the year, but early on, I'm almost going with the Zach Taylor method of first 2 weeks are a struggle, and the Chiefs offense left a lot of points on the board. That 27 number, I think the Bengals have to score in the 30s, in my opinion, to win this game. I don't think they can.
Tell you the one thing, though, Lou Anarumo, he knows how to slow down Patrick Mahomes. He knows how to slow down Patrick Mahomes. If anything, there's been one defensive coordinator really in the NFL that has figured out how to do that, and it's always the second half. First half, he doesn't really know what he's doing. But in the second half, I think that's even how he got the nickname that Bengals fans call him. And I don't know if it's an NFL-wide, the mad scientist, because he's able to figure out something. I mean, you think back to the AFC Championship game that the Bengals won. I mean, I thought it was going to be real bad at the half. And it was kind of one of those things I think I probably even texted my friends. And it was like, well, this is fun. It's great. You know, it's a great run. We finally broke the streak. And then all of a sudden, the defense played well. The offense came in, and next thing you know, it was a fun 2 weeks until Aaron Donald broke our hearts.
Well, Sam, we appreciate your bravery and candor coming behind enemy lines and predicting the Chiefs. I mean, that usually doesn't happen here, so we really appreciate it. Sam Gormley from Jungle Juice. I'm going to be on the pod later, 7:30 tonight, I believe, so definitely check that out, guys. Thank you so much for popping on, and great luck Sunday.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys. Anytime you need us, we got it. And I guess I got to drop with a who day, right?
Absolutely.
Jamar who? Jamar who?
Oh, we'll see on Sunday. We'll see on Sunday, right?
At least we can say Jamar's name. You know, they can't even say Patrick's name.
Well, at least I didn't come on here and start saying Arrowhead or something like that, right?
Ooh.
You were good, Sam. You're good. You kept it solid here. Next time I'm in Kentucky and Southern Indiana, we'll stop by and grab some bourbon. How about
there
that?
You go. You've got yourself a deal. Anytime, guys.
All right, Sam.
See y'all. Have a good day.
Later. You know, I'm really glad we're catching them right now because I do think that they know how to play the Chiefs well. Lou Anarumo is usually in his bag against Patrick Mahomes. I don't know if slowing him down a little bit, right? As much as anybody can. Nobody stops Patrick Mahomes. I tend to think that second half was as much a meltdown as it was anything Lou Anarumo did. But this is the time to catch Zach Taylor because I think he makes adjustments. And by the end of the season, typically, if injuries don't kind of ruin their luck, this is a team that's playing its best football late.
Yeah. I'm with you. Again, it comes down to Lou. I think the Chiefs offense, quite frankly, 27 against the Ravens. Ravens defense is very solid at 27 there, left a lot of points on the board. I think we're going back to a couple of years ago where the Chiefs are scoring 28 or more every single game. You're going to have to outscore the Chiefs to beat them. I don't think the Bengals can early. That's what it comes down to.
I love the idea of bringing those Legion of Zoom days back. And you know what else I love bringing back? our next segment, the Kansas City stock market. Let's do it. The Kansas City stock market.
Greed, for lack of a better word, is good.
Fugazi, fugazi, it's a wazi, it's a woozy, it's a fairy dust.
Tell me the difference between stupid and illegal, and I'll have my wife's brother arrested.
So Nick Bolton, I think we can all agree, had an off night against the Ravens last week. Meanwhile, Leo Chenal looked like a world beater. So has the linebacking pecking order changed? We're saying it has here. Pump or dump?
Hard dump. No. What? Bolton played 80 snaps. 80 snaps. Has not played in the preseason. Is coming off of an injury. Dog was gassed and was still out there for every single snap. Whatever your thoughts are on Bolton, especially in coverage, that's what the Chiefs think. I'm with you. I love Nick Bolton. That was potentially the worst game I've ever seen Nick Bolton play in a Chiefs uniform. I think it's more rust-induced as well as conditioning-induced than anything else. We all said, a lot of people did, he looked slow. Now, the Chiefs did a great job holding Derrick Henry on the ground, and some of that was Nick Bolton, especially early on in the game, right? But we know his limitations. But he has never looked that bad in pass coverage his entire NFL career. He doesn't excel there, but he looked bad there. And I think it's more rust-induced as well as conditioning-induced. He played 80 snaps, every single one. Leo played great. Leo Chenal was phenomenal. He'll get his chances. He'll get his opportunity. But in this Chiefs defense right here, it's Nick Bolton, it's Drew Tranquill, it's Leo. And somehow no one has said a word about Drew Tranquill having a bad game. For some reason, it's all on Nick. It's all on Nick. I get it. When you want to be paid like a top 10 player at your position, maybe even top 5, expectations changed. I'm just saying I'm looking out for my guy just a little bit here. Leo's phenomenal, but some of the same issues arise. He's not a great coverage linebacker. He's really good at his certain roles, and he excels there. I do like seeing him lined up every once in a while as a linebacker, almost hanging over the edge, getting some pressure, occasionally dropping back. But as far as the pecking order changing, no, but Leo looked damn good.
You know, sometimes we agree too much on these. So I'm like, let's maybe bait Sterling a little bit with this Nick Bolton question to bring out the best in Sterling. And I think you nailed it. Nick Bolton last year, when he played against, I believe, the Bills, coming off a similar injury, he was rusty. He was not good. And there's another similarity between the Bills and the Ravens. Those are the two, in my opinion, most difficult quarterbacks for middle linebackers to play against. I mean, Lamar Jackson puts you in RPO purgatory. I mean, you just have, he's so difficult because he's just the best athlete on any field he's on. I don't think that's an overstatement. I literally think he's the best athlete on any field he's on. And then you throw Derrick Henry into the mix. These two tight ends, they came out. I mean, they didn't play 12 personnel anywhere near this much last year. So all of a sudden you're contending with both Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely. And I think that their goal in this game, and you've seen this in all 5 of the matchups that Mark Andrews has been part of the Ravens for, they doubled him. They took him out of the equation. That was their focus. They said, if we take Mark Andrews out of this game, I don't think the Ravens can beat us. And ultimately they couldn't, even though they came close. You know, I just wish we could have a rational conversation about Nick Bolton. I feel like Chiefs fans are either he is Fred Warner or he stinks. And neither of those things are true. He's probably like a top 12-ish, fringe top 12-ish linebacker, middle linebacker in the National Football League. And we can definitely have a conversation as to whether we can pay him or should pay him with all the other guys that are coming up, like Rashee Rice, like George Karlaftis, Trent McDuffie. The list goes on and on, even Trey Smith next offseason. But I think to act like Nick Bolton isn't a very good player and a very good leader is just short-sighted, and I fully expect him to bounce back. So I am also dumping here, but I have to say, Leo Chenal, the way he was hitting Derrick Henry, the way he was spying Lamar Jackson, those two different things, physical enough to hold up in the run game against the big dog, and then athletic enough to spy Lamar Jackson. How many players in the entire National Football League can do both those things in the same night?
0. By the way, I saw a question about Hollywood Brown. Questionable. Andy said he did not practice today. Typically, Andy Reid likes his dudes to practice almost a full week leading up to game day. When he was pressed on the question if this means that Hollywood Brown is officially listed as out for Sunday, he said not necessarily, but I think like we all expected, probably week 3 against the Falcons. At least that's when I would expect Hollywood Brown to be back. I would say he's even listed as doubtful more than even questionable at this point. All right, number 2. Everyone was way too low on Rashee Rice coming into the season. His ceiling is now an Amon-Ra St. Brown level power slot. Pump or dump?
I'm giving this a solid pump. And I think one of the things that has happened is we got so used to the prototypical X receiver, those Julio Jones guys, that I think our mind still goes there when we think about a dominant receiver. But the NFL has completely changed the way it plays defense, right? These two high shells, they want to limit explosive, sometimes to a fault, where they leave everything underneath open. And Rashee Rice just has almost a supernatural feel for getting open against zones and sitting down where Patrick Mahomes wants him to be, and seamlessly taking the ball and getting upfield. And I had a talk on Twitter with friend of the show, Matt Harmon, and he said that he has kind of minimized these types of players in the past as one of the kind of foremost authorities on wide receivers. But he says he's giving them a big upgrade because of the way the league is playing defense. And when you think about Xavier Worthy and Hollywood Brown, who you just mentioned, I would not rush him back. This is a long season, marathon, not a sprint. When you think about those speed demons stretching the field, Travis Kelce doing the crazy stuff he does, the improv stuff to get open, and then the running game, you just can't double Rashee Rice. You can't do it. And I just don't know how they're going to stop him. I mean, he runs last year, 38% of his routes were slants, which you can call him slant boy like you called Michael Thomas all you want, but I don't think other teams can stop it, just like they couldn't with Drew Brees and Michael Thomas. So I think he's going to be a huge target hog, maybe get 150 targets and just eat off of Yak, and so be it, right?
I'm a slight pump here because I think Rashee Rice, and I was kind of telling folks this, why is he going under the radar as far as his production level? I know all the off the field stuff that he had this past year, but as far as production wise, the second half of the year, he really came on. He's a 1,000+ yard consistent receiver, especially in this offense when they have a guy who can take the top off deep. He is so good in the middle of the field, especially with Travis Kelce getting a little older. Rashee Rice is almost becoming target number 1. Now, I know it's a small sample size and everything, but we kind of saw that transition late in the year as well. I don't know if I can say Amon-Ra St. Brown, because Amon-Ra St. Brown, I think, is a top 5 wide receiver in the NFL. Like, you know how much I enjoy Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Yeah, you said he was better than CeeDee Lamb last year.
Different players, different styles. Yeah. But I think Amon-Ra St. Brown is maybe even the most underrated wide receiver by a media or a fan viewpoint. I think he's so damn good, right?
Yeah, totally.
I don't know if Rashee Rice can get into that 1,400, nearing 1,500 yards a season type of player. That's a tough ask. But can he get to that 1,200 yard threshold and maybe even semi-consistently? Yes, I do. So I think it's more of a slight pump for me, not a full steam ahead. He's going to be a 1,500 yard. He's the focal point. He's the guy every single game. I don't know if I can get quite there.
So maybe I'll throw a different comp at you. How about peak Chris Godwin? Chris Godwin when healthy and killing it out of the slot. That
easy pump for me. Yeah.
Okay. So another guy that popped for me last week was Tershawn Wharton. He looked explosive in the pass rush and pretty stout in the run game. So last year was an off year due to recovery from that ACL surgery, pump or dump.
Ooh. I'll say pump. I know it's one game, but we've seen Turk at times flash prior to the injury, right? Last year was a real not ideal. I know it's one game against a Ravens offensive line with 3 new faces. I like Turk a lot. Him and Chris Jones were really the only two who were consistently doing anything. We'll see this game against the Bengals, but if Turk Wharton is getting the same pressure he was getting against the Ravens, if he's doing the same against the Bengals, Lamar ain't back there. Lamar ain't running. Joe Burrow ain't running away from Turk. Turk's going to get a sack and a half if that's the case. Hell, I might even sprinkle a little something on Turk to get a sack in this game. So, yeah, I think Turk's back, baby.
I'm definitely pumping here. And at first, like right after the game, I thought, am I just being a homer? Or did he look just way more athletic? Did he have his burst back? And then the next day, I saw Brandon Thorne of Trench Warfare, who I think is one of the smartest people talking about offensive line and defensive line play, the trenches. He was talking him up and saying he played terrific. So I'm all in. You know, it depends who you are. Not everyone recovers from an ACL surgery like Jamal Charles did. It usually takes guys a year, a full year, and then in year 2, they're no longer rusty. They're back to their old self. So I just think this is pretty obvious that, you know, maybe that was one of his better games of the season, a good matchup, what have you. But I think we're going to see an improved Tershawn Wharton. And what's up with the Chiefs and defensive tackle named Turk? I think that's awesome. Turk McBride, you know, if we're going back to the Tank and Turk days of yesteryear.
Okay. Come on, Lauren Shanks. I always appreciate you, Lauren. You're great. I always love this. It says Amon-Ra has 13 total yards so far. LOL. Come on now. He had 1,515 last year. 1,515 yards last year. Okay. He's also the same age as Rashee Rice, which is pretty damn impressive of how quickly Amon-Ra came out of the scene. They're both 24 years old. Pretty wild.
That's crazy.
Just something to think about.
But if you look one quick thing, if you look at
Lauren, all right, Lauren, I'll give you credit. He said LOL. Come on. All right. I'm with you. I sarcasm font was hard to read there. I'm with you.
One last thing on Rashee Rice versus Amon-Ra St. Brown. Amon-Ra St. Brown really didn't do much the first half of his rookie year. And he was injured in his sophomore season and didn't really have the full-on explosion to year 3.
Still getting 1,100 yards, though.
I know, but I think, like, it's still so early in the Rashee Rice experiment. And like Amon-Ra St. Brown, he's surrounded by a lot of talent and a great play caller. So I see a lot of similarities, and I think it's still possible for him to get to that level. But
yeah. All right, number 4. Final one. Left tackle Kingsley Suamataia is very raw and will struggle for most, if not all, his rookie season. Pump or dump?
I'm doing a light dump. I do think it's going to take him a year or 2 or 3 for him to reach his ceiling, which is immense. But we knew he was a bit of a project coming in. So there was a lot not to like. And I think even Chiefs fans realized that, right? Even Mitchell Schwartz was like, that wasn't a good first game. What I do like, however, is the improved athleticism when you have Suamataia on one side and Jawan Taylor on the other side versus Orlando Brown Jr. and Andrew Wiley. If you look at the screen game, I thought the screen game was just incredible last Thursday night. On that Xavier Worthy touchdown, hardly anybody touched him. And all these guys were downfield. It looked like, I don't know if it looked like the Brian Waters, Will Shields days, or if it looked like a punt return, but it was incredible. And I just really love the improved athleticism. I think in the passing game, he's just going to need time to get a feel and put together all his tools.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same boat as you. Like, I don't think he's going to ever be a reason the Chiefs lose a game, but you know my feeling on rookie tackles. Like, even the best rookie tackles, outside of maybe Joe Alt this year. Like, Joe Alt looked insane. He went one-on-one against Max Crosby, and apparently I think he won all 11 reps, which is just, that's insane. And he's learning a new position at right tackle versus left. I think he's going to have his struggles, but I don't think it's going to cost the Chiefs. The Chiefs allowed him to go one-on-one way more than I expected week one. Almost a sink or swim. Just almost see what you have in him. And it wasn't great, but it wasn't horrible. It wasn't like it was drastically worse than anything we saw from when Orlando Brown Jr. or Donovan Smith was here. Like, again, was it great? No. But was it backbreaking or debilitating? No, it wasn't either. It's almost kind of like why I said I wanted Wanye originally to be, because I go, guys take a step forward entering their second year because they've seen a lot more. He's going to get beat by some veterans, and we're going to have to live with it. But again, I don't think it's going to be debilitating. And for the long term, this is what's best. This is what's Adam. You like that?
Wow. I will add here that Mahomes, since he's been in the league, he's pretty much had the best pressure to sack rate. Despite inviting pressure, he's about as good at avoiding sacks as guys like Tom Brady and Jared Goff, stationary quarterbacks who get rid of it fast. So he's going to really help Kingsley out and keep him from making too many mistakes that hurt the team. So you just got to feel good. And also Andy Heck, we have to mention offensive line coach Andy Heck. He's going to get him right. Have faith in that coaching staff. Let's hit up our final score predictions. I feel really good about this. I can't believe that I'm saying I feel really good about a Bengals game just because they've kind of had the Chiefs number, the one team that has had the Chiefs number. They just don't look right, and it's early in the season. My only worry about the Chiefs at this point is that I didn't think their edges looked very good. I thought their pass rush last week was sort of non-existent from the exterior, but I think they'll get FAU playing better. Fingers crossed. Eventually, Charles Omenihu is coming back. And I think Chris Jones gives them enough pressure towards Burrow that he's going to have problems. So I'm picking Chiefs 31, Bengals 13. How do you see it, Sterling?
Yeah, again, Bengals right now, as what we saw last week, again, just how they always start the season. I like the Chiefs. I like the Chiefs to cover. I like the Chiefs to hammer the Bengals 30-17. I hate almost doing that because it feels like we're being disrespectful to the one team that's really beaten the Chiefs in the Mahomes era. But it's also like, has any team gotten more run off of one playoff victory than the Cincinnati Bengals? Like, see, I get it. They beat the Chiefs in the playoffs that one time. They played them close before, but it's also like, Joe Burrow is always injured. He's still injured. There's a lot of unrest, it feels like, with players not getting paid in Cincy. It's early in the season. I don't think Zach Taylor's a great head coach. Yeah, I think the Chiefs, I think the Bengals get better as the season goes on. I will say that. But week 2, I think the Chiefs roll 30-17. I don't know how many games we'll see with the Chiefs not score more than 27 points in a game. They'll score 30 here. That actually might still be the under 47. I think it's like 47.5. So I guess I might be on the under, even though the Chiefs score 30.
You were right on the over last week. So I'm going to listen to you. When you said that about that one playoff victory, they're still living like off that one hit wonder. I started to think about it. And I'm like, yeah, that's right. And then on the other hand, isn't he the only quarterback that has a victory over Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs in his entire career, except for one Tom Brady, right? So I think that's part of it, right? Just they went into Arrowhead and beat the Chiefs. That just seemed, especially given where they were at the front of that season, just seemed like an impossible feat. So you got to tip your hat to them. But that was 3 years ago, guys. Yeah. That was a different defense, different Chiefs, completely different Chiefs team. So got to feel really good about the Chiefs this weekend. last thing here, what's spinning? Sterling, tell me what you're listening to.
Yeah, first shout out to Angry Drunken German. Always appreciate you. You're always phenomenal, and you're always giving people memberships. You always gift it. We appreciate you helping us grow this thing. Gifting 5 KC memberships right there. Thank you, ADG. I'm listening to right now Anthology, the album by Alien Ant Farm. Been going through a big Alien Ant Farm kick recently. I know everyone knows the Smooth Criminal
absolutely
cover they did of Michael Jackson's song, but that album is so good. Courage, Attitude, Sticks and Stones, Wish, Movies. I mean, that album is so good. It's just quintessential like early 2000s, but it kicks so much ass. Yeah, man. Big surprising band I love is Alien Ant Farm.
Hell yeah. I remember back in college when I was at Kansas State rocking out to that CD. That was back in the CD days before we even had, smartphones and MP3s and all that shit. For me, my wife and I are really fortunate. Her parents handed down a ton of records to us. And one of my favorites is Frampton Comes Alive. Peter Frampton. And, he's a good musician. If you listen to his studio stuff, Show Me the Way, Baby, I Love Your Way. Why do all these songs have way in them? But he has a song called Do You Feel Like We Do? Here's the album. And he starts talking through his guitar, and it's crazy. It's like 13 minutes long.
Yeah,
exactly. It is just a good, you're hanging out, you're drinking, you're doing whatever. It is a good song to put on to kind of like get in the zone. Huge fan of Peter Frampton. Well, that's all we've got for you guys today. Do us a huge favor if you have the time. Please consider a 5-star review over on Spotify or Apple. Really, really helps us out. And if you leave a question, we'll answer it on our Thursday show. Join us next Wednesday at 5 p.m. Central right here on the Arrowhead Addict channel. Until then, go Chiefs.